You wake up, your feet hit the floor, and before your eyes are even open, you reach for that phone on the nightstand. I did it for 30 years. I thought that was just what mornings were. But there are 5 small things I used to do in the first 10 minutes of every single day that were quietly putting a strain on my heart, and I never felt a thing until the day I did. Here is what I learned the hard way. The most dangerous part of your day for your heart is not the gym, not the stairs, not a stressful phone call. It is the first 60 minutes after you open your eyes, and the habits that make it dangerous are the ones nobody ever warned us about, because they felt like the responsible, grown-up way to start a morning. I want to tell you where I found the thing that changed my mind. It was buried in a set of cardiology observations going back to a study published in the medical journal Circulation in 1989, work that measured exactly when heart attacks happen. Doctors have quietly known this timing for over 30 years. Most of us were never told, and the fix costs nothing, needs no equipment, and you can start tomorrow morning in your own bedroom with what you already have. I still remember the morning it hit me. I was standing in my kitchen in the dark, February cold coming through the window, coffee already brewing, phone in one hand, and my chest feeling tight in a way I told myself was just tiredness. My father had gone the same way, in the morning, in his kitchen. That memory is the reason I started digging. So let me walk you through these 5, one at a time, the way I wish somebody had walked me through them years ago. Let us start with the very first one, the phone. The moment you wake up, your body is in the middle of something it has been doing quietly for the last 2 hours of your sleep. Doctors call it the cortisol awakening response. Between roughly 6 and 8 in the morning, your body floods itself with cortisol and adrenaline to get you up and moving. Your blood pressure is already climbing. Your heart rate is already rising. This is normal. This is your engine turning over. But here is what I did not understand. When you grab that phone in the first 30 seconds, and the news is bad, or an email hits you wrong, or you see something that spikes your stress, you are pouring gasoline on an engine that is already running hot. You are stacking a mental jolt on top of a chemical surge your body was already producing. Your blood pressure, which was climbing on its own, spikes higher and faster than it was ever meant to. That study I mentioned, the one from 1989 in Circulation, looked at the timing of more than 4,000 heart attacks. What they found was that heart attacks are not spread evenly across the day. They cluster. There is a sharp peak in the hours right after waking, roughly a 40% higher risk in that morning window compared to the rest of the day. 40%. That is not a rounding error. That is your most vulnerable hour. And what do most of us do in that exact hour? We reach for the one device engineered to spike our stress the fastest. I tested the change on myself. For 2 weeks, I left the phone in the next room and did not touch it for the first 30 minutes. I felt the difference in my chest by the end of the first week. My mornings stopped feeling like a scramble. The tightness eased. I am not telling you a screen gave me a heart condition. I am telling you the timing of that jolt, in that specific vulnerable window, is a stress your grandparents never had to survive before breakfast. Because here is the thing that started to make me angry the more I read. Somebody designed that phone to be the first thing you touch. That is not an accident. That is the product working exactly as intended. And your heart is paying the entry fee. But the phone was only the first of the 5, and honestly, it was not even the one that shocked me most. The second habit is the one I would have defended to your face. Standing up fast. The alarm goes off, or in the old days, the second alarm goes off, and you launch yourself out of bed because you are already late. I was proud of it. I thought a quick start meant a strong start. Let me tell you what is actually happening inside you when you do that. All night, lying flat, your blood has been distributed evenly through your body. Your blood pressure has settled into its lowest, calmest range. When you snap upright, gravity yanks a rush of blood down toward your legs and your gut, For a few seconds, less blood is reaching your brain and your heart has to react instantly, slamming its rate up to compensate and pull that pressure back into balance. Doctors have a name for the dizzy version of this. They call it orthostatic hypotension. Most mornings you do not feel it, or you feel just a flicker of lightheadedness you shrug off. But that flicker is your cardiovascular system taking a sudden, violent correction, and it is happening in that same high-risk morning window when your arteries are already stiff and your blood is at its thickest. Now here is the part I love, because this is where the forgotten knowledge comes in. If you read old household and health guides, the kind of advice passed down before everything ran on alarm clocks and adrenaline, people did not fling themselves out of bed. There was an understood rhythm to waking. You woke, you lay still a moment, you sat on the edge of the bed, you let your body catch up. My own grandmother used to sit on the side of her bed every morning with her hands in her lap for a full minute before she stood. And as a boy, I thought she was just being slow. She was not being slow. She was protecting her heart, and she probably did not even know the science of why it worked. So I stole her habit. Now when I wake, I stay flat for a slow count of 30. Then I sit up and put my feet on the floor, and I sit there for another slow 30. Maybe I roll my ankles, maybe I just breathe. Then I stand. It costs you 60 seconds. 60 seconds to let your blood pressure adjust like a dimmer switch instead of a light being flipped. That is the whole technique. It is free. Your great-grandparents did it without thinking. But sitting up gently only matters if you have not already made the third mistake, and this one hides inside a glass of something we were all told was healthy. The third habit is what you drink first, and more importantly, what you do not. Overnight you lose water. You breathe it out, you sweat it out. You do not replace a drop for 7 or 8 hours. By morning, your blood is measurably thicker and more concentrated than at any other point in your day. Thicker blood is stickier blood. It moves harder through narrowed vessels, and it clots easier. Combine that with the pressure spike and the standing jolt, and you can see why that morning window is the one doctor's circle in red. So what did I reach for first thing? For decades. Coffee. Strong, black, and immediate. And coffee, wonderful as it is a mild diuretic. On an already dehydrated body, my very first act of the day was often to nudge myself a little further into dehydration before I had put back a single drop of the water I lost overnight. Here is what the old advice got right that the modern morning forgot. Before coffee, before anything, you drink water. Plain water, room temperature, a full glass, the moment you are upright. This is not some new wellness trend somebody is selling you. If you go back and read home health manuals from the early 1900s, the morning glass of water on rising was simply assumed, ordinary, universal. It was common sense that got quietly replaced by a coffee company's idea of a morning. I started drinking a large glass of room temperature water before I let myself touch the coffee pot. Not ice cold, because a hard cold shock first thing is its own small stress. Just cool, plain water. Within days, my morning headaches eased. That thick, sludgy, foggy feeling in the first hour lifted. I was thinning my blood back to normal, the gentlest way there is, using the cheapest substance on earth, before I asked my heart to do anything hard. And that word, cheapest, is exactly where this stops being an accident and starts being something that makes me a little angry. Because think about who profits when you believe the answer to a tired morning is something you buy. A stronger cup, a special drink, a supplement with a label full of promises. Nobody sells you a glass of tap water. There is no margin in telling you the fix was free and sitting in your kitchen the whole time. So the simple thing, the thing that actually protected your heart, got buried under decades of advertising for the thing that made money. The knowledge was not lost by accident. It was crowded out, because free advice has no marketing budget. And once I saw that pattern, I could not stop seeing it. But before I take you into the fourth habit, I want to tell you how I pulled all of this together in one place. When I finished digging through the research, the old manuals, and the cardiology literature. I wrote it all down in a book. It is called First Fixes, and there are 2 more parts, Deeper Fixes and the Full System, for anyone who wants to go further than a single morning routine. Everything in those pages follows the same rule as everything in this video. No devices to buy, no supplements, no subscriptions, just the recovered knowledge laid out in the order you can actually use it. You will find the details in the description below. Now let us get back to the 4th habit, because this next one hides inside something almost everyone does without a second thought. The 4th one is temperature, and specifically the shock we call a hot morning shower straight out of a cold bed in a cold house. I know how good it feels. I chased that feeling every winter morning of my adult life. Step out of the warm covers into the cold air, jump underwater as hot as you can stand, feel it wake you up. It feels like the reset button, but look at what you just asked your heart to do inside of about 4 minutes. You went from horizontal and warm to vertical and cold, and your vessels clamped down tight against that cold to hold your heat in. That raises your blood pressure. Then you step into hot water, and those same vessels have to swing wide open to shed heat, which drops your pressure fast. Clamp, then release. Up, then down. A violent swing in both directions, back to back, during the exact hour your heart is already under the most strain it will face all day. There is a reason cardiologists pay attention to bathrooms. In Japan, where deep hot bathing is a daily tradition, researchers have studied a phenomenon they connect to thousands of sudden deaths every year, most of them in the colder months, most tied to that brutal swing between a cold room and very hot water. The Japanese health authorities take it seriously enough to publish warnings about it every winter. The temperature swing itself is the danger, not the bath, the shock. So I changed 2 small things, and I want you to hear how small they are. First, I stop starting the shower scalding hot. I begin it warm, comfortable, closer to body temperature, and only ease it hotter once I am in and my body has adjusted. Second, in winter, I let the bathroom warm up first. Let the room fill with a little steam, so I am not stepping from freezing air straight into hot water. That is it. I am not telling you to take cold showers. I am telling you to stop making your heart referee a fist fight between hot and cold before you have even had breakfast. Now, I promised you something specific, and this is the moment I want to talk directly to you if you have been listening and thinking this all sounds like it is for people with fancy homes, personal doctors, and money to spend on their health. I want you to hear me clearly. Every single thing I have told you so far, and everything I am about to tell you, costs you nothing, not $1. You do not need to buy a device, you do not need a gym, you do not need a supplement or an app or a subscription. You need the bed you already own, the tap you already have, and about 10 minutes of a morning you are already living. So let me give you the version of this you can do tomorrow, in an ordinary house, on an ordinary budget, using only what is already in your bedroom right now. When you open your eyes, do not move fast and do not reach for the phone. Stay flat and take 5 slow breaths. In through the nose, out slow, letting your belly rise. Those 5 breaths do real work. They nudge your nervous system out of that jolted adrenaline first thing state and into a calmer gear, which softens the blood pressure spike before it peaks. Then sit up slow. Put your feet flat on the floor and sit on the edge of the bed for a slow count of 30. While you sit there, roll your shoulders, open and close your hands a few times. Wake the circulation up gently in your arms and legs. Then stand. Walk to the kitchen. Drink your glass of cool water before anything else touches your lips. That whole sequence is free. It uses your bed, your floor, your lungs, and your kitchen tap. There is nothing in it to buy, and there never was. That is exactly why it got forgotten. A morning routine you can do for nothing does not get advertised, does not get packaged, does not get sold back to you at a markup. It just quietly works the way it worked for your grandparents, until somebody convinced us that anything worth doing had to come with a price tag. And I want you to notice the feeling that comes with doing it, because that feeling is the point. When you move through those first 10 minutes slow and deliberate instead of scrambling, your whole day starts from a different place. You are not behind. You are not braced. You gave your heart the gentle on-ramp it was always designed to have, instead of shoving it onto the highway cold. But I saved the fifth habit for the end, and I want to be honest with you, it is the one that took me longest to believe, because it is the one that looks the most like being responsible. The fifth habit is the way most of us treat the morning itself as an emergency. We wake already late. We wake already behind. We wake into a rush we manufactured the night before by staying up too long and setting the alarm too tight. And that rush, that feeling of springing awake into panic and immediately racing the clock, is a stress load your heart absorbs every single morning of your working life. Here is where I found the piece that pulled it all together, and it is older than any study. If you go back and look at how earlier generations structured waking, before the alarm clock became the drill sergeant of the household, mornings had slack built in. People woke closer to the light. They rose in stages. There was a slow first hour. That was not laziness and it was not luxury. It turns out it matched exactly what the body needs during its most fragile cardiovascular window, an hour of easing in rather than an hour of alarm. The modern morning inverted that completely. We built a morning that begins with a blaring alarm, a leap out of bed, a caffeine hit on an empty, dehydrated stomach, a hot shock in the shower, and a phone full of stress, all crammed into the 60 minutes when the heart can least afford it. Every one of those 5 things, on its own, is a small strain. Stacked together, in that order, every single day, they are a pattern. And that pattern is what those cardiologists were quietly circling in their data all along. So here is the secret finale I promised you. The thing I found buried in the research that pulled every one of these threads into a single, simple idea, and it comes from a piece of history most people have never heard. Back in the 1960s and 70s, a physician named Bernard Lown, who would later share a Nobel Peace Prize, spent his career studying sudden cardiac death and the way the heart responds to stress and rhythm. His work, and the work that grew out of it, kept pointing at the same overlooked truth. The heart does not just react to how hard you exert it, it reacts to how suddenly you change its state. The killer is not effort. The killer is the sudden swing, the abrupt jolt from one condition to its opposite, with no transition in between. That is the thread running through all 5 habits. The sudden mental jolt of the phone, the sudden postural jolt of standing, the sudden chemical jolt of caffeine on thick, dry blood, the sudden thermal jolt of cold room to hot water, the sudden emotional jolt of waking into panic. Every one of them is the same crime committed a different way, a swing too fast for a heart in its most delicate hour. And that means the whole solution, the real secret, is one word: transition. Everything your grandparents did in the morning without thinking was a transition. The minute on the edge of the bed, the glass of water before the coffee, the slow start before the day. They were not being quaint. They were, without ever naming it, giving the heart a ramp instead of a cliff. That knowledge was never truly lost. It was kept alive in old habits, in grandmothers sitting on the edge of the bed, in home manuals nobody reads anymore, waiting for someone to notice why it worked. So here is exactly what to do this weekend, when you have no alarm forcing you. Practice the slow morning once, deliberately, so your body remembers the rhythm. Wake without the alarm, lie still, and breathe. Sit on the edge of the bed and let a full minute pass. Stand slow. Drink your water warm before your coffee. Let the shower start mild and warm before it turns hot. And give yourself the first 30 minutes with no screen at all. Do it once on a quiet morning. Feel how different your body feels by mid-morning, and you will never want to go back to the scramble. That is how you turn it from a thing you read into a thing you own, because that is what really happened here. The thing that protects your heart in its most dangerous hour is not new, not expensive, and not complicated. It is a rhythm of transitions that human beings kept for thousands of years and then traded away in a single generation for the convenience of an alarm clock, a coffee brand, and a phone. Somebody profited from every piece of that trade. Nobody profits from telling you to sit still for a minute and drink a glass of water, and that, more than anything, is why you were never told. I spent 30 years starting my mornings like the house was on fire, and the truth was, I was the one striking the match every single day without knowing it. Recovering this did not cost me anything except the willingness to slow down the first 10 minutes, and it gave me back a calm I did not know a morning could hold. If you are the kind of person who has always suspected that the simplest, cheapest answer was quietly buried because there was no money in it, then you already understand what we do here. We dig these things back up. We hand them back to the people they were taken from. Now, I want to hear from you, and I want one specific thing. Which of the 5 surprised you the most? Was it the phone, the fast stand-up, the coffee before water, the hot shower shock, or the rush itself? Tell me in the comments which one you have been doing for years without knowing, and tell me where you are watching from. I read them, and I want to know how many of us were making the same mistake in the same first 10 minutes of the day. And if you believe, like I do, that real, useful knowledge keeps getting shelved because someone found a way to sell us the expensive version instead, then come with us. This is a growing group of people quietly recovering what was taken, because the next thing I am digging into is the one nighttime habit that may be undoing everything you do in the morning, and once you see the connection between the two, you will not be able to unsee it. That was just the first of 5. Inside the Timeless Ways circle, I pick up right where we stopped and walk you through the 4 remaining morning habits. You can ask me your own question, and a real person, me, answers you myself. You'll belong alongside thousands of practical folks just like you. Point your phone's camera at the code on the screen, and you can cancel any time. One click.